Hey everybody, Nick here. In the last 3 months, I've made almost $300,000 US dollars with 94% profit margins using automation and make.com. And this is pretty nuts to me because up until just a couple of years ago, I used to struggle selling automations that were more than like $500. The main reason for that is because I just didn't know what to sell. I didn't know what systems were valuable to business owners. I didn't know what I could put into a business and have produce some sort of ROI. And I know many of you guys are in a similar position. So what I want to do in this video is I want to cover 5 extremely in-demand high ROI automations that you can build and sell today for between $1,500 and $10,000 a pop. If that sounds like something you guys want to do, stay tuned and let's get into it. All right, so we're breaking out the slideshow again. Before we start, I want you guys to know that this is my own process and thinking. It got me to $72K a month, but it is by no means the only way to get out there and do things. So if I were an automation freelancer or an agency owner watching this video, I would take whatever makes sense to me and just leave the rest. No hard feelings. And as per usual, no gatekeeping. I'm just going to show you guys everything and even give you whole systems that you could sell. So first and foremost, what makes a high ROI automation? Well, in my view, there are 4 components. The first is that it needs to solve a dire, hot button business need. It needs to be something that improves the lives of the business owner you're targeting. I'm going to use the term business owner a lot, by the way, because I target SMBs, small to mid-sized businesses. If you're targeting enterprise, you might want to think of it as stakeholder decision maker. The second component is there needs to be a clear deliverable. So there needs to be either a document or an email or a CRM or a line item on a spreadsheet, or I wrote email twice here, apparently, sucks to suck. Basically, your automation has to create something and it needs to be visible to customers. I'm going to talk a lot about that in a second. The third is you need to be able to deliver it using templates or APIs. The reason for that is because if the service that you're delivering is unscalable, if it's a thing that does not scale, you will never be able to break out of like the $5,000 to maybe $10,000 milieu that a lot of automation agencies and other types of agencies, to be honest, tend to struggle with. And the fourth is that it's platform agnostic. What I mean by that is you can build the same flow on 3 or 4 software platforms. You're not reliant on just one software platform to fulfill your need. If you are, then it gets a lot harder to work with people that might not have those software platforms or aren't willing to install them in your business. Now, I want to cover every single one of these in detail because it's very important that you understand these principles before you actually get into the real systems. A couple of these are going to be very interesting to you guys indeed. So it solves a it solves a dire hot button business need, super hot buttons. Simply put, businesses will always pay more solutions to problems that are pressing. So if the problem is pressing right now, they're willing to pay a lot more than if it's something that maybe they see in the future, maybe that they're forecasting, but that isn't exactly facing them at the moment. What is a pressing problem? I define it as anything that impacts your ability to generate revenue, save money, or free founder time. Again, if you're working with enterprise people, that might be decision maker time, stakeholder time, department time, something like that. But the important part here is I always see every business problem in this lens. I look at it through these 3 factors. And if it doesn't impact one of these 3 factors, odds are it is not a pressing problem. It's, to be frank, something that I just don't need to concern myself with. If I had 2 automation agencies, right, and I just spun up both, and one targeted problems that impacted your ability to generate revenue, save money, or free up founder time, and then the other ones, I don't know, targeted other problems, maybe like how sexy your website looks or customer satisfaction levels even, which I guess would contribute, but not as directly. Which agency do you think would do better? It would obviously be the ones that care more about generating revenue, saving money, or freeing founder time, because that's a lot of the time what the business owners care about as well, right? Now, the more urgent the need is for any one of these 3 factors, the easier the sale and also the more money that you'll be able to charge for an automation. When a business is actively losing money or potential customers due to inefficiencies, for instance, they're almost always willing to pay a percentage of the money that they are losing to rectify a problem. And they're often willing to pay more if it's rectified quickly, if there's some sort of rush for it, which is one of the reasons why you need to be able to template out these systems, which I'll cover in a moment. So here's some examples. Maybe you have a whole team of fulfillment staff at your content marketing agency, and they're just waiting around, kicking rocks, doing absolutely nothing because there are no clients. If that is the situation, then your need is more sales. It's more, it's to generate revenue, essentially. Another example might be your support team for your SaaS product is overwhelmed with inquiries and response times are lagging. This is leading to major churn. Churn means that you are impacting your ability to generate revenue. So in this case, your need is more customer support. And the third example is maybe you run an agency and your ability to process invoices blows. You don't have a good system for this. You routinely forget to follow up with people or send invoices or collect on payments. So on and so forth. Your need is now a better invoice process. So the way that I see it is that every single day that one of these above problems, generate revenue, save money, or free founder time, is not solved, will cost a business in some way. Technically, this is referred to a lot of the time as an opportunity cost, not a direct cost, not like money is physically flowing out of the bank account, but you consider it as lost capital that businesses were unable to make or recoup as a result of not having these systems in place. So I'm saying we have a theoretical sum of $1,000, right? Maybe it's $1,000 a day. So it's about $30,000 a month. When you build an automation that solves this problem that is costing $30,000 a month in opportunity cost, you are in essence making them that $30,000 in opportunity cost back. And your value as an automation engineer and agency is you get to charge some fraction of the total amount that you're paying, that you're making them, as the cost of your system. So if you are making them $30,000 in either generating revenue, saving money, or freeing founder time, well, now you can charge some fraction of that. You can charge maybe a third of that, maybe a quarter of that, or something along those lines. You could actually feasibly and confidently charge $10,000 a month for a system that makes a business $30,000 a month. And there's nothing wrong with that. I do it all the time. The second important component here is that your automation needs to produce a clear deliverable. Now, the best automations always produce tangible outputs. What I mean by tangible outputs are things that like the customer can see, that the customer can almost feel. Hell, maybe they can print it out and look at it on a piece of paper. Documents, emails, CRM systems, project management systems, assets, you name it, as long as it's something that's a little more physical, then you're on the right track. The reason why is because systems, processes, flows, whatever you want to call them, they are by nature immaterial. They are like software infrastructure, right? You're shuttling data between one module and the next. Where the hell are these modules? Somewhere in the cloud. Where the hell is the cloud? I don't know. So your goal is to turn your system from this black box, vague thing into a concrete thing that your client can actually imagine touching and can imagine feeling. The value for this is because they also tend to produce immediate results, the result being the deliverable, which is a lot easier to quantify on the customer side of things in terms of how valuable this is. And they also let you, as an automation agency or freelancer, claim a very straightforward win. It's like, well, what did you do for me in the last month? Well, I generated you 3,000 of those, right? That's tangible. It's something you can hold and assign value to. And the real value is that makes transitioning your relationship that is typically starts off as like a one-off into a retainer a lot easier. And that's really where the leverage is in this business model. So I give you some examples here. A PDF generator system that produces a new asset, like a white paper, a quote, estimate, proposal, whatever, every time a form is filled out. That is tangible. That's something that produces a deliverable that the customer and you can track. Comprehensive CRM that your client can navigate through, click buttons on, upload stuff to, interact. This is tangible. This is something that the customer can see on their screen. They're going to interact with it every day. There are buttons to click, forms that need to be filled out, and that sort of thing. The third might be a cold email system that generates an email for you every time you get a new lead, or a Slack notification for you, or maybe all of those two plus a CRM entry whenever somebody responds to that email. We're essentially turning something that is a little vaguer and a little more process-oriented into a deliverable for you and your client to look at. So even if your system doesn't need deliverables in order to work, I should underline this, you can often modify your system to include them, which greatly increases your perceived value, and it just greatly improves the amount of money that you can charge essentially for said system. Okay, the third big component, again, is that you can build it using templates. So the best automations are ones that you can put together quickly using templates because it minimizes your work. It's going to minimize your cost of goods. So it's going to minimize the number of opportunities for things to go wrong. And it lets you generate a tangible return on the client investment pretty quickly. The more templatable it is as well, the higher the leverage on said system. That just means that you can build a system like one time, and then you'll only ever have to modify it moving forward. And the modification is like a fraction of the time it took you to actually build it, right? Like if I build a system that does that PDF proposal thing, and then the only step that I have to swap out is I just have to swap out which template I'm using. That might take me like 5 minutes or something, right? I copy the blueprint. That's 99% of my job. And then I just jump in, change the ID of a template, press enter, and deliver the system. That's extraordinarily high leverage. I don't have to build out a $2,000 project every single time. I can build out a $2,000 project once, and then I can do maybe half an hour of work to like wrap a nice bow on it and deliver it to the client. The theoretical ideal system, and not one that I have personally built myself, not one that I basically see anybody build, but if you think about it, the theoretical ideal is a system that is entirely deliverable through API calls alone, i.e. you would receive a payment, that would trigger some automation that you've set up. And then that flow, that automation would actually build out the whole client deliverable in a flash, right? The whole client system. I've experimented with a couple of variants of this, and we were just talking about this in Maker School, actually. But you get a new cold email client. Well, then you make a few API calls, automatically buy some domain names, automatically ideate some copy, automatically add that to some templates, automatically get some leads, right? You can do a lot of this stuff completely autonomously. And that's the ideal system. It's very difficult to attain practically. You usually have to do some manual service, whether it's consulting with the client or reassuring them that you're okay or recording videos for them as deliverables. But this is sort of like the aim that we should get to as automation agencies. So I'll give you some examples here, like a CRM template that you've already built once. It's perfect for the client industry. And all you do when you get a new client is you just copy and paste it in their environment. Voila, done. Maybe you make a couple edits, but you guys get my point. B might be a series of blueprints that you import into the client make.com environment that you only make minor tweaks to afterwards. This could be that proposal generator system thing that I've shown multiple times on my channel, that you just got to swap out the specific template. Easy. Third might be some sort of creative brief, right? Maybe it's a website generating automation. It's a little brief that asks questions. What colors do you like? What styles do you like? What do you want on the site? They click a button and then that triggers a flow that generates a whole business website. And now you're selling websites more so than a particular system. But I think you guys get my point. It's a templatable flow. The fourth and last major component is it needs to be platform agnostic. Well, need is too strong of a term, but you're a lot better off if it is platform agnostic, unless everybody on planet Earth uses the platform like Google Sheets or Google Docs or something like that. But ideal automations are ones that don't depend on a particular software platform to fulfill, because this lets you work with a variety of clients, not just those that have your stack pre-existing or are willing to pay for it. This makes it a lot easier to get your first few jobs, especially if you haven't, if you're not at the point where you're making $5,000 or $10,000 a month yet. Increasing the scope of the total client base that you could work with is very. I would highly recommend it. It allows you to get very simple and easy jobs on jobs platforms like Upwork, Fiverr, freelancer.com, that sort of thing. And I'll give you some examples down here, like a proposal generation system built in such a way that it works regardless of platform. Maybe you typically do it with PandaDoc like I do, but I don't know, you put a module in between that just maps all of the same data fields that you need. And then all you really have to do is just drag and drop, PandaDoc and hot swap it with DocuSign or something. Or maybe it's a cold email system that works with all the major providers. You have like an Instantly module, then you have a Smart Lead module. You have like a Hey Inbox module. I think there are a couple of these platforms. I don't know if that was the right one, but I think you guys get my point. All right, so let's actually look at the automations that I've been building up to here. Before we dive in, I want you guys to know these are real systems that are actually being sold successfully today through cold email, my automation communities. They're being sold through Upwork, social media DMs, and more. And you guys can build these systems exactly as they're written. I'm going to show you guys flowcharts, or you guys can produce variations of them. They fulfill all of the requirements above, and they're also built in such a way that you can modify them to do so. So maybe, I have a couple of CRM templates. You could swap those for ClickUp to Notion, hypothetically. I've also talked about and have blueprints for literally all of these systems. They're scattered throughout my YouTube channel. I'm going to include a link to my Gumroad here, which is just like a place that you can find all of my blueprints compiled over the course of the last 8 months or so. So feel free to poke through there. This is the first time that you're watching or interacting, the first few times that you're watching or interacting with my content. You guys are going to see a big library of blueprints that you might be able to use. And then all of these, simply because I use make.com, can be created using make.com. And I have created them using make.com, but you can also put them together with an equivalent no-code platform like Zapier or N8N. You could theoretically just write all this stuff in code as well, although I obviously would not recommend it because there's a lot more leverage in no-code. All right, let's get into these actual systems here. And I'm cognizant of the fact that I'm cutting this off a little bit. I'm going to move my head in post just so you guys could still read everything. The first is a copy and paste industry-specific CRM. This is a quick example of what this might look like in ClickUp. As you guys can see, this is separated into a variety of fields. Statuses, I should say. Top left-hand corner says template creative agencies. So this is a template that we sell to creative agencies specifically. These are like ad agencies that whip up ad creative. They do like videos. They do, like art and design and that sort of stuff. And essentially, we've split the CRM up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps. There's an intake step where somebody books a meeting with you. Then there's, an intake step where somebody comes into the system. There's a meeting booked step where somebody books a meeting with you. There's a proposal sent step, where we send a proposal to them post-meeting. Closed lost, which is where somebody does not take action within, I believe it's 14 days, or we manually mark them as closed lost. And then there's a closed won stage. And this is set up in such a way that you can very easily just connect this to a project management system, start some automatic onboarding, which is another system I'm going to show you guys in a second, and basically just like leaves you open for simple upsells. So this system I built in ClickUp, but to give you a description, it's a CRM with the bells and whistles customized to a specific industry that you pre-built ahead of time and that you're tackling. Maybe you're tackling creative agencies, but maybe you're tackling, I don't know, law firms, or maybe you're tackling, what else we got here? Dentists. Maybe you're tackling, I don't know, like some sort of retail business, some sort of content influencer creator, some sort of professional service MSP. I don't know. The point is you find your niche and you build these CRMs specifically for that niche that solve a lot of those problems that that niche is suffering from. You break the stages into a flow that makes sense for that particular stage, right? Like if I'm selling, I don't know, flowers and I run a flower shop, well, my pipeline's probably going to be a little bit different than if I sell ad creative, right? Like a creative agency. So you by building this will demonstrate a pretty deep and thorough understanding of the niche, which is a great leg in, sort of foot in the door that allows you to build out other systems for them later on. In terms of the specific problems that they solve, this solves the following hot button needs. It solves the fact that I'm disorganized as hell. It solves I have no idea where my calls or appointments are. It solves I have no standardized way of following up with leads. It solves I'm not making enough money. It solves I'm bleeding revenue. All of these, right, can be framed in the context of generate revenue, save money, or save founder time. It also produces a clear deliverable, which is the system itself, which you can click into, you can explore, you can organize. You can also attach a few of the systems I'm going to talk about later to the CRM, sort of as add-ons. That's the reason why I put this one first. And then you can add extra deliverables like templated assets, templated PDFs, I don't know, things, resources that you send to the customer, automated videos, whatever the hell you want. You can create templates very easily in ClickUp that allow you to do this copy and paste thing. You can also build this in 3 to 4 major project management platforms. You could build this in ClickUp, but also Notion and Asana and Trello. Obviously the tools that you're going to use are going to be different in your niche. There are also a lot of very industry specific CRMs that you guys can co-opt and then build on top of using their APIs, right? Like law firms typically have their own little CRM stack, for instance, but I wanted to make this simple and accessible to you guys. I want you to know that you can sell this from anywhere from 1.5K all the way up to $10,000 or more, US fixed price, and that's with no add-ons or anything. It's really just about the need of the customer, as I mentioned, how urgent that need is, how you position yourself, your authority, how quickly you build out the system as well, and also some white glove stuff like your customer support, your customer service, your ability to consult, and that sort of stuff. You can also charge an hourly rate to implement this or build this from the ground up, although typically if you charge an hourly rate for this, you're going to make a lot less than if you go fixed price. And then you can also charge a monthly maintenance fee. So you could charge like $500 to $1,000 to like maintain this, or give somebody some sort of retainer with a fixed number of hours to just make little tweaks to it as necessary. People will usually want to make some changes to copy and paste CRMs that you give them, not because they think that it's a copy and paste CRM, but because business owners typically just have their own slightly different way of doing things. So it might be as simple as renaming a couple of these stages. It might be as simple as adding 1 or 2 additional ones. This is about as minimalistic and, to be honest, about effective as you can get with one of these small, medium-sized business CRMs. But, a lot of the time people are going to want to use you to make changes, and you should definitely be charging for that. So that's system number 1. Not bad, hey? System number 2 is a copy and paste industry-specific content production system. Now, the diagram that I have here, I built in Whimsical. It's a visual flowchart tool. The reason why I built this in Whimsical is because I wanted to make this platform agnostic. I didn't want to have to build out 17 different platform scrapers and tools and then give them all to you blueprint-wise. As awesome as that would probably be for all y'all, that would take me 3 years. So what I've done is I put this together in Whimsical. I have blueprints that show a very particular content production system. You can very easily piece this together using the blueprints on my Gumroad, but let me run you guys through this from top to bottom. Basically, we need a way to scrape content that has already been produced on social media platforms. So this is stuff like YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, some other data source, Appify, or some alternative. There are a variety with Appify or an alternative. There are a variety of scraping tools that allow you to do this stuff, that allow you to automate like pulling channel's most recent 50 videos or something. But the idea is you use this as the trigger or the entry point to the rest of the flow. You scrape things like the titles of videos, the transcripts of videos, the descriptions, maybe you scrape comments, you scrape a bunch of stuff, okay? And then what you do is you filter out the invalid posts based on the title, topic, or some other column. Some of these posts will be invalid. Like when you scrape some things with Apify or Instagram or LinkedIn, for instance, sometimes you get a column that has keywords, right? Maybe you're just looking only for content that has particular keywords or something, or maybe you're not looking for content that contains another keyword. So you filter it based off of some procedural elements is what I'm trying to say. Now you have a list of remaining posts. What you do is you iterate through each of these and then you feed the titles, the transcripts, the descriptions, or whatever the hell else data points you want into a large language model. That's what LLM stands for. Basically ChatGPT, GPT-4o, Claude 3.5, or one of the alternatives. And then you use that LLM to come up with some take on the content, some variant of the content, or if you really want to be parasitic, you just have it rephrase the title or rephrase the meaning of it anyway. What you do is with that output, you add the result to a Google Sheet or your content pipeline, and then you use that to generate a bunch of metadata like, as I mentioned, titles, excerpts, keywords. Maybe you have an outline, maybe you have a hook section. If you guys watched my recent video here with the YouTube scraper, this is sort of what I'm referring to there. And then at the very end, this is optional, but you can use all of that metadata to feed into a large language model and then create a bunch of new content as well. So if you guys have seen my videos on my AI content generator, this is basically what my AI content generator does, that last step. I feed in a brief, which has like a title, it has keywords, it has some other additional pieces of information. And then I go through a flow that uses artificial intelligence to create Google Docs, create outlines, produce section text, and then ultimately end with a high quality article. The point that I'm making is this is a system that is entirely doable and sellable right now. All you need to go do is just piece together a couple of the systems on my Gumroad, and then voila, you now have a content production system that you could sell from anywhere from $2,500 to $15,000 or so. So this solves a couple of hot button needs as well. The main one is that I have no clue where to start with content. I have no freaking ideas, Nick. I have no standardized production process. My current production process is too expensive, or my current production process costs too much money. I guess both of those are the same thing, but hey, what are you going to do? I was a little tired when I wrote all this. The point that I'm making here is each of these impact your ability to generate revenue, your ability to save founder time or save money. And a system like this effectively addresses all of them. It also produces a clear deliverable. That's the actual content that you're creating, right? So that might be a Google Doc, could be a line in a spreadsheet. You could hook this up to create like a video clip using Transloaded or Banner Bear or something like that. You could create a Twitter post. The point I'm getting at is it is a deliverable. It's something the customer can see and feel, put in their hands, and ultimately feel happy with. You can also take the core idea and just modify it into whatever you want by swapping out this beginning step and then swapping out that end step. So you could swap out the platform that you're scraping, right? So maybe it's not YouTube, like in my YouTube comment scraper, it's something else. And then you could swap out that last part here. So instead of it generating like text blog post, maybe it generates a video with Banner Bear. The way to template this is using blueprints in Make alongside maybe some templated Google Sheets or something with little content pipelines. You could just prepare this ahead of time. It might take you like an hour or something to get all the infrastructure in. And then now you have a template that you just copy and paste every time you do a service delivery. And as I mentioned, anywhere from 2.5 all the way up to 15K, and that's fixed price, no add-ons, as well as you could charge an hourly rate to implement it or make tweaks. The big caveat here that I've personally faced and a few people in my community have faced as well is a lot of the time, if you're selling to small business owners, they don't really understand like the limitations or the technical realities of these models. So they usually have some requests about like changing the tone of voice or changing, I don't know, like adding really detailed citations and whatnot. And you can certainly do this, but it's typically not as easy as just like, oh, okay, let me just make one tiny fix and then everything's solved, right? AI is flexible. AI produces flexible outputs. You're never going to be 100% satisfied with content like this, but I think you can realistically get to like 90 to 95% satisfied, which is often much better than whatever the people were doing anyway. You can also charge a monthly maintenance fee for this. You could charge $500, $1,000, maybe $1,500 a month to maintain or make improvements to this. This could be a very easy segue into a retainer product, as I've talked about before. So that is system number 2. System number 3 is a no warm-up industry-specific cold email system. In this cold email system, what we're basically doing is we're setting up infrastructure that is capable of sending on day one. If you guys have seen my previous email videos, you'll know that a lot of the time you have to wait. You have to warm something up for 14 or 21 days or something of that nature, and it takes absolutely forever. That's a big chunk of your ability to generate results quickly for clients just disappear, right? Well, the cool part about this is there are now a few tools out there, one of which being Instantly, that allow you to purchase pre-warmed up mailboxes and basically start sending within 24 hours. And this is personally what I am going to switch to selling primarily, just because there is so much leverage and value in being able to whip up a campaign like this within a day. You could go from not having any, a client not having a single lead in months to you generating them 15, 20, 30, 40 leads in a day, depending on the volume that you work with them on, obviously. Anywho, this is what the flow looks like. We buy domains using Instantly's pre-warmed or an alternative. Let me just show you guys this if you guys haven't done this before. This is just an Instantly account that I have set up here. If I click Add New, you'll see there's a pre-warmed account section. This is relatively new as of the time of this recording, which was October the 30th, 2024. You can actually just click this button and you can buy pre-warmed domains. And then in addition to that, you can actually buy pre-warmed mailboxes on those pre-warmed domains. Now, these do have names that do not exist. So, I mean, Heather is definitely not somebody at my company. Neither is Claire or Kayla. So you have to be willing to sort of play fast and loose with the rules. Maybe you forward all emails from Kayla to Nick at LeftClick and you say, hey, how's it going? I'm picking up for Kayla. Thanks so much for getting back to me. Let me solve this problem for you. But it's still a very quick and easy way you can get up and running with this that shaves off a lot of time. Anyway, that is step one. Step two, select a predetermined number of mailboxes, maybe 9, 18, 27, however many you want to spin up. The third is scrape however many leads you want, some standardized amount, using a platform like Apollo and Email Finder leads rapidly. Now, I'm talking about this as if we're doing this manually. There are also automated ways that you can set up systems to do this for you. If you're using something like Leads Rapidly, which is the cheapest lead provider that I've been able to find, and so far results are pretty good. It's $3 per 1,000 leads as of the time of this recording. Then I don't believe they have an API, but if you're using like Apollo and Email Finder, there's systems out there that you can set up that I have recorded videos on that will enable you to do this mostly autonomously, mostly automatically. So maybe, every time you get a customer, you get 27 mailboxes, which is a sending volume of about like 900 a day or so. And then you scrape, 5,000 leads for the first week, let's say. What you do then is you feed every biography of the person whose lead info you just got from the previous step through a large language model to customize the very first line of the outreach. The way that you do this is, you'll feed in like a LinkedIn bio, for instance, or like a Facebook bio or Instagram bio, or maybe like the customer website or prospect website. And then you'll say something like, create me a customized one-line introduction that, is formatted exactly like this. And then you'll use some best practice formatting. And then instead of your email saying, hello, name, I am Nick, I would like to work with you on blank. Now it's, hey, Peter, loved what you were writing last week in your blog post about X, Y, and Z. I'm totally on the same page, man. I just wanted to reach out and tell you something really quick. Obviously, which email you're more likely to respond to, the second one. And then in a templated way, you could put together a swipe file with all of your best performing offers, assuming that you run this for a long period of time. And then you can just copy and paste the exact writing or copy of that, maybe make a couple of little changes to the way the offers are framed, but just use them from client to client. And in that way, you can get a fully up and running functioning email system with basically no drawbacks in, to be honest, less than 30 minutes. This is something you could charge maybe $10,000 or more for. I've seen people charging up to $10,000 for a system like this, although they typically charge lower and then they have some per lead fee or per percentage revenue on closed deal fee. The last thing you do is you dump the positive replies into Slack and pre-formatted email to client. But yeah, this solves a ton of hot button needs. The main one is obviously we're not making enough money, Nick. Our leads have dried up, man. Our salespeople are sitting around all day doing nothing. Our fulfillment team is sitting around all day doing nothing, both of which you have to pay for. Another is just like founder chaos, founder uncertainty. We have no consistent way of generating business that isn't referrals. I hear this all the time. And the last is that our current way of generating business is too expensive. You can essentially solve all these problems simultaneously. The next point is that it produces a clear deliverable. The clear deliverable, actually the system doesn't really produce a clear deliverable. So you have to hack it to make it produce a clear deliverable. The way you do this is by you email the person that is handling the leads, and you should probably CC the decision maker that you did the work with too, just to be safe, sort of show your work and show your results. You should also Slack notify. You should add to spreadsheets. You should add to their CRM. You should do all that stuff simultaneously. You can use artificial intelligence to only filter out the positive replies. So, if you run campaigns at scale, you're going to get a lot of people going to be like, I'm not interested. Leave me off the list. Unsubscribe immediately. How dare you spam me? I'm reporting you to 700 government authorities. You don't really want your customers to see that, right? So I recommend having some AI filter that you pass all of the replies through and then have the AI categorize it as a positive reply or a negative reply. If it's a positive reply, then forward it over to the customer. They'll be pretty happy about it. As you test the offers and copy, you can save the best ones, add them to a swipe file, and pull all of your copy from said swipe file for future campaigns. You can template out enrichment flows using blueprints, etc. I mentioned that down here, so it's very templatable. And the last is that you could sell this, as I mentioned here, from 1.5 to 10K fixed price. You can also charge an hourly rate to implement this, although I personally wouldn't recommend it in this case. You could charge maintenance or management fee to not just maintain the system, but even respond to emails on somebody else's behalf. You could hire outreach managers to do this work for you. You could look for lower cost of living places, combine their ability to respond with ChatGPT or templates, or make an arbitrage on their time, essentially. You could also charge a per lead fee every time that you book a meeting in the customer calendar. You charge them like $100 or $200 or something like that. Depending on the size of the service, this can be very worth it for them. And last but not least, you could charge a percentage revenue on deals closed, although you have to have confidence that the customer has the ability to close deals, because if you think about it, you are now making your income contingent on something that you do not have control over. So only do that if you're pretty confident in their sales skills. So yeah, that's this system. As I mentioned, I'd highly recommend using Instantly for this, but you can set up the same sorts of flows using Smart Lead, which is another major email provider. Vast majority of cold email platforms will have the functionality I'm talking about here, sending from multiple mailboxes. There are also a few resellers now that will do the instant day one setup. None of them are coming to mind at the moment, but I will add a couple of them down in my YouTube description. So feel free to take a look at that if you're looking for alternatives to Instantly. The fourth system is a copy and paste proposal automation system. Now, I've talked about this a lot on my channel, and maybe some of you guys are like, well, Nick, didn't you just mention this in the last video? I did, when I was like 7 make automations that make me all this money. But that's because this is extraordinarily valuable, and it's nowhere near reaching market saturation. It is insane how in demand this is, despite the fact that I've been talking about this and hundreds of thousands of people have seen this for the better part of the last 7 or 8 months. These copy and paste proposal automation systems are so valuable, especially small, medium-sized businesses that are making maybe less than 15, 20K, where the founder or the business owner themselves is still jumping on those calls. Because you can massively save founder time. Using a system like this, you could shave off 20, 30, 40 minutes a call. And this is a big point of leverage for people. So this is how it works. Essentially what you do in order to set this up is you will have a big list of proposal templates somewhere on a PandaDoc or DocuSign or whatever proposal software platform you're using. And then you will make minor changes to these depending on what client you have. So maybe they have their own proposal template that they want you to rebuild in your platform. That's cool. You can do that. That's the one work that you'll actually really have to do here. Maybe they have some Google Slides template they want you to modify. That's fine. You could copy and paste that stuff into PandaDoc or DocuSign and then work with that. But the point is, you select proposal templates depending on whatever the client offer or service is. Then what you do is you copy a template that you created for a form. And this is a very simple form that I have set up previously that you basically just fill out. I'll even show it to you guys right now. That just asks some very simple questions that allow you to log client details. I wish I owned nick.com. The outcome of the call, a 1-sentence description of their business, whatever their problem is, whatever their solution is, what platforms or services you're going to use, how long the project will take, how much you want to charge them, right? If this is like this is like a half an hour phone call, I'm sure you guys can imagine you can fill this out while they're talking. So you can have the proposal ready to go by the time you send it. So what you do is you just copy one of those, or something that I've seen a lot of people in my community now do is they say, screw typing. I don't want to type at all. I'm just going to use a meeting recorder bot. And they actually have the end of the meeting trigger an automation that takes the transcript from the meeting recorder bot and then summarizes it and pares it down until you get exactly what they talked about. And then they feed that into AI instead. So you feed this into your large language model, you generate JSON with specific proposal sections that are like, hey, this is the problem you're suffering from. This is the solution that you want. This is how we're going to do the solution based off what we talked about. Here's a brief scope, right? You pre-generate all of that fun stuff. And then if they have different packages, maybe select from a list of packages, you populate their proposal sections, and you just automatically send to the prospect right away. I also recommend sending a customized email alongside the proposal for max effect. This is somewhere around here. My actual flow. This is just a copy of a copy, so I haven't used this one in quite a while, but this is basically exactly the way that it works that I described. You get a discovery call form entry on Typeform. You then use it to generate a big proposal. This proposal, I believe I'm generating in JSON format. Let's see here. Yeah, we're generating this in JSON format, problem pitch, solution pitch. You might have different structure to yours, so you'd obviously have to play around with it. We even generate milestones, timelines, then we send the proposal using PandaDoc. What you would probably want to do is you want to dump this into some set variable module that's before your document module step. And then that way you would just feed the results of that module in to your platform. And then you could just hot swap, better proposals, PandaDoc, whatever. Okay, so this is a CRM standalone. This is a CRM add-on or standalone system that leverages templates and AI to create highly customized looking proposals for your clients, as I mentioned. It solves a bunch of hot button needs. The biggest one is probably like, hey man, our proposal rate sucks. Sales admin has taken me forever. Our sales team's just wasting their time doing proposals rather than jumping on calls. Systems like this will increase your average deal size since they'll increase the perceived work that goes into every proposal. Our leads have dried up. Our fulfillment team is sitting around all day doing nothing. Proposals take way too long or way expensive right now. Again, these solve the ability to generate revenue, the ability to save money, and the ability to maximize founder time. The benefit here is it also produces a very clear deliverable, like the proposal, which you can email, text, add to a spreadsheet, or add to a CRM. You guys can obviously take the core idea and apply it however you would like. The benefit here is you could also do this in 3 or 4 major proposal platforms. You do this in PandaDoc. You do this in Better Proposals. You do this wherever the hell you want, really. If you use the approach that I talked about earlier, where you put a little set variables module between the AI step and then the proposal generator step or the proposal platform module, then you can obviously just drag and drop a different module as necessary. It might take you 5 minutes realistically. In terms of price, I've seen this sold anywhere from $1,500 all the way up to $5K fixed price. That's no add-ons, as well as you could charge an hourly rate to implement this or make tweaks. You could charge a maintenance or management fee. Management might be like producing new proposal templates or, outsourcing to your designer, something of that nature. But people are selling this stuff right now as we speak. I think somebody just sold this exact system a couple days ago in, I don't remember which community, but one of my two. The last system I'm going to talk about here is a copy and paste new project onboarding system. And this is probably like a more intensive one to fulfill, but I also think that it's one that potentially gives you the most leverage in the customer business. The way that this works is this is an onboarding system that triggers when you start a new project or close a deal. Basically, you will shake hands with the customer. They'll send you some money through an invoice, and then you'll track to see when that invoice has been paid. The second that it gets paid, you receive an event. That event triggers a flow where you will template stuff out for them. You'll template out Google Drive. You'll template out Google Docs. You'll template out whatever asset they need, maybe some creative brief or a welcome doc or whatnot. You can use artificial intelligence at every step here to customize the assets that they get as well. You could have time trackers. You could basically build out a project management flow where instead of you having to hire a project manager, you could just rely on a system like this that's super organized to do it all for you. So the way that the system works from a bird's eye view is basically we'll have that trigger that I mentioned, right? Payment trigger, maybe a form's filled out. And then what happens after is you'll create a templated Google Drive folder or Dropbox folder, whatever organizational folder system. You'll then create a bunch of Google Docs for various use cases like content, ad copy, etc. Maybe if you're a creative agency, you need to, you have like a Google Doc or question list that you send to the customer and then they have to like fill in the information or something, right? So what you do is you create a Google Doc using the information that you got from that payment trigger and maybe your project management or CRM system. That Google Doc is customized. You can even send it to the customer. And you place all this stuff in the folder to keep it organized. And then you pass the project details to a large language model and have it generate JavaScript object notation with specific sections. The sections here are going to be for your various assets that you're generating. So maybe, you generate some ad copy automatically based off of the website of the customer that you scrape using Make or Zapier or something. Maybe you pre-template out an ad campaign based off of a template that you've matched or something, right? Like maybe you have a list of 5, or maybe you have a big swipe file with 5 different industry categories. And then every time you get a customer from an industry, you go into that industry category and then you copy the swipe files and then you use them as inspiration to pre-template out all the ads. There's a variety of ways that you guys could automate the hell out of this, right? I'm just giving you some ideas here. Afterwards, you add it to your project management system or sheets. And then finally, you send a customized email or notification to your fulfillment staff and or the client for maximum effect. Ideally, you do this whole thing in like 30 seconds or something, and then you send them something that's just so insanely customized that the customer goes, holy shit, I'm working with real professionals here. So systems like this are great. I use them all the time. I use them in 1 second copy right now. So this is a good example of a system like that, sort of a simpler system, but essentially what I'm doing is every time we get a new project, we're searching for the project folder, creating a new project folder, creating a content brief template. That's one of the assets that I talked about. We are then creating a harvest time tracking entry, and we're kind of connecting this to our own database and our own infrastructure, right? So you guys can do something really similar with your own onboarding system. This solves a variety of hot button needs, mainly the fact that onboarding takes forever, that your margins suck, that everything's disorganized, it takes forever to find stuff. Where the hell's that file that Lucy promised me last week? Projects always go over budget or delivery scope. Basically, having a system like this just makes all of that a little bit better. It works, in my experience, as a lift where everything is just now 5% easier. You get jobs done 5 or 10% faster. You get to take on 5 or 10% more jobs. You have to hire 5 or 10% fewer people. It's just a way to economize everything. And people tend to like this quite a lot. It also produces a clear deliverable, which is that record that we just talked about in your project management system. It produces those assets. It produces folders. You can change this however you like, whether you want to use Google Docs, Google Drive, Dropbox, Paper, whatnot. You could build this out in 3 or 4 major file and time tracking platforms. And then you can sell this from anywhere from 1K to 5K USD fixed price, no add-ons. Obviously, depending on whether this is a much more comprehensive or intense onboarding system, maybe you need to do more than just generate a few simple assets like I talked about using AI. You guys can charge more than that. But generally speaking, people assign project management a lower importance to sales. So if you're building a project manager, you'll be able to justify a lower price than, let's say, a CRM. You could also charge an hourly rate to implement this, make tweaks, and you can also do a maintenance or management fee. So that, in a nutshell, are 5 systems that you could sell starting today for between $1,500 to $10,000. You guys have everything that you need on my YouTube channel, my Gumroad, to actually get out there and start doing it. I think the tertiary benefit of this video is that hopefully it gives you guys who are currently running your own businesses some ideas and systems that you can implement there as well. If I knew what I just told you guys at the beginning of my automation career, I probably would have been able to reach my $72K a month in 2, maybe 3 times as fast as I did. I probably could have made 2 to 3 times as much money as well. I guess all I'm trying to say is a lot of the time you just need somebody that's been there, done that, just to guide the way a little bit. And I'm hoping that this video has helped you guys do that. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, feel free to drop them down below. I am on a comment responding spree right now. I spent 5 hours the other day responding like 180. It's pretty bonkers, but I'm going to keep on doing it till I keel over from exhaustion. Otherwise, please like, subscribe, do all that fun YouTube stuff. I'll catch you on the next video. Thanks so much for the time. Cheers.